So this is the gateway of opportunity, you say?
Of course, the reason it's called the gateway of opportunity is because this gateway opens up a host of opportunities for all the students who enter it.
Okay.
These hallowed gateways have been dreamt of for the last century, a century where this organization has dreamt of nourishing and nurturing students who can change the world. So, after almost a century of cumulative churning of knowledge, we finally came to the fruition, which is Suresh Gyan Vihar University. And these hallowed gateways are the ones through which, when a student enters, he or she has to shoulder the responsibility of net social positive change. Something that creates some kind of positive change and also makes sure that we leave the world a better place.
Okay, so the starting point of your future career journey,
Yeah.
where the impact that you're supposed to make in society begins, and
Yes.
you get in there, you understand and learn with your colleagues, with your faculties, with your professors, that how would actually become that person that would be useful to the society, an impactful person to the society.
Yes,
Right?
and while doing that,
Yeah.
ensuring that you are creating something.
Yeah.
Because a university is not just something or an institute which just disseminates knowledge, but it's essentially an institute which creates knowledge as well.
Yeah.
And Suresh Gyan Vihar University is essentially a center which creates knowledge and
Yeah.
which makes sure that all the stakeholders involved are also taken along this process where knowledge reaches new dimensions. So SGVU, Suresh Gyan Vihar University. And now I think we can enter. And
But also the focus of how this campus is built itself. Like whenever I enter here, I always have a look towards the left, and I see that there's a artificial lake built by the campus itself. That the campus's belief in biodiversity, and of course, when we enter, we'll see how diverse the biodiversity itself is in both fauna and flora. And it doesn't feel like it's Rajasthan. And right from here, it feels very different. Like as soon as you're here, right?
So I'll start from there.
Yeah.
So we have Madagascar terminalis,
Yeah.
the tree that you see over there.
Yeah.
It is also called the Madagascar almond.
Yeah.
Next to it is called the Conocarpus.
Yeah.
Then you have the Caneras here, which is also called Caneres in Hindi and Canaries in English. Then you've got chiller, you've got people, you have got neem. More than 100 different species of plants and trees are here, and more than 150 species of birds are in the campus. So the campus is a biome in itself. It's an ecosphere, an ecosystem in itself. There are seldom campuses which are biomes in themselves. But this is the beauty of this campus. You have students, you have teachers, you also have birds and animals and plants. And in a state like Rajasthan, which receives less than 60 centimeter of rainfall in a year,
Least in the country,
to have
right?
almost 10,000 trees in this 32-acre green lush campus, to have that many trees, I think is a feat that is only been possible because of the hard work which has been put in and the passion with which this campus was designed. So to your right, you actually see a lake which is called the Mahal Jheel, which has been preserved, conserved by those who've designed the campus, those who've made this beautiful building. And there are water recharging units inside this campus which conserve the rainwater, and that water is fed to this lake. So this lake is now home not just to flora and fauna, but to various algae, to various bacterial colonies, viral colonies, and these are things which our own School of Applied Sciences is also studying. So we very frequently do the soil testing here. We very frequently do the water testing here. We have a piezometer installed inside as well.
The campus,
And all of these things, we are trying to make sure that with the development that knowledge can bring in, sustainability is also ensured. So all of this is an effort to make sure that the entire development that universities like SGVU, the development that they fuel, is also coupled with that pleasant feeling of sustainability that we can bring along.
So within Rajasthan, the university took upon itself that we'll conserve all the water that comes through rainfall and the water that we use here itself. And we have plantations, we have plants to clean that water, to maintain that lake that would be used by the flora and fauna around here. So I've seen a lot of maybe cows and other fauna of the
there are antelopes
area.
As well. There are
antelopes that would come and they would drink this water in the harsh summer of March and June. And so this preservation itself, shows something that's very different with this university that I have not seen anywhere else.
So what we do is that we dredge a lot of salt and silt out of sand and silt out of this lake every year.
Every year you take it
So
out.
to make sure that the capacity of this lake increases. At the same time, the entire grey water that's being produced in the university is being filtered through both automated STPs, automated sewage treatment plants, as well as filtration systems which are completely frugal and indigenous, which have been made through frugal invention by our own university experts, the ones who are working on climate change and water research. So they have made their own filtration systems. So rainwater as well as our sewage waste is all collected, filtered, and then used to recharge our own step wells, and the surplus is then fed to the lake, which also collects, by the way, because it is the slope of this area is such that the natural slope is also towards the lake. So it also captures a lot of surface runoff. So a lot of surface runoff, a lot of surplus being fed from the campus makes sure that this lake is almost always full of water. And it also makes sure that our own water needs are met by our own step wells, are met by our own, water preservation systems, so that we don't have to exploit more than we need. So it's an effort to limit our exploitation and also an effort to actually recharge the subsoil water. To give you a factoid, in 2023, the subsoil water here was almost at 250 feet. In 2025, the subsoil water is now at 125 feet. So we have almost been able to rise it by 100%.
Through the efforts of the university.
By our own water recharging systems.
It's not just like that's amazing, because it's not just a lesson on how to run, how do you participate in the society, but also each of the student can learn how they can eventually make that impact in the society, right? Because then the professors and departments are working first of all in the filtration process, the treatment process. So I'm guessing applied science, engineering is involved. The whole treatment is happening, and then your effort is aligned that you're trying to retreat this water to make a place like Rajasthan into something that it deserves.
As we speak, there is an ongoing project on Escherichia coli to find out how much E. coli is there in this water. So a lot of these things are connected to each other, and that's the beauty of Suresh Gyan Vihar University.
Being published on your own lake, right? Like
using everything that we have and making sure that research is interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary in nature. That is what Gyan Vihar University is known for. Making sure that all disciplines come together and create some kind of knowledge which is truly interdisciplinary and truly transdisciplinary.
I've only seen this in some UK and US universities where they sort of take this in principle to show students also and to show their research work also that you can itself make an impact on your ecosystem just from anything that's around you. And you find solutions of what is around you right from there. And you usually don't see that in Indian universities or even the Indian mindset, that you always find problems. You always say that the government's not doing anything, that this management is a failure, administration is a failure, but you can make that impact yourself. So, and you see that when you're coming from that main road to Gyan Vihar Marg to and entering this university, that suddenly even the environment has changed. So you're not in Rajasthan anymore.
So Gyan Vihar is a microcosm of sorts.
Exactly.
Outside Gyan Vihar, you'll see a lot of problems which exist. But inside Gyan Vihar, you have problem solvers and solution seekers who have made sure that all the local problems which plague this area, which plague this nation, we try to find solution to most of those problems in our own limited manner, in the way that we can, while also ensuring that all of those solutions can then be extended. So as a part of our agricultural studies, we have something called extension studies, where you're not just trying to seek solutions, but then you're also trying to multiply it. Then you're also trying to scale it up. You're also trying to make sure that whatever solution you have devised, you're able to implement it and execute it on the ground. So these are the things that we are doing here, where even when we are finding solutions, we are also looking at ways to scale those solutions up.
That's
I think we can go inside.
So a very cool statistic I've heard is that someone said that we've parameterized the temperatures in the last few years of the outside and the inside of the campus. And it's a fact that the inside temperature of the campus is around 2 to 3 degrees Celsius less than the outside. This is an amazing fact to me.
So the thing is, that to your left,
Yeah.
you see Phoenix dactylifera or Phoenix sylvestre as people call it,
Yeah.
which is your date palm.
Your date palm. Yeah.
You have Estonia there. You have your ficuses here.
Yeah.
There is Pilkhan and there is ficus black here.
Yeah.
Then you have your frangipani, which is champa. Then you have your entire palm garden, which has your Bismarck palm, your Chinese palm, your coconut trees, and so many other trees here,
Yeah.
which make sure that the temperature here is almost 2 to 3 degrees
Yeah.
lesser than what you have outside. So this entire campus has a beautiful calming feel to it. Whenever you're here in the campus, whatever negative energies, anxieties, nervous
That you
energies
come
that
in
you
with.
might bring from outside, that will all dissipate away.
Yeah.
Because these trees, these plants, this cooling, calming presence of the campus is sure to make sure that you also become very peaceful when you're here.
So in one way, when you enter the gateway of opportunity, to
Yeah.
actually explore that opportunity, you have to be open enough
Yes.
in your mind to actually imbibe that knowledge inside. of you.
Yeah. So you have
Yeah.
to be open, you
Yeah.
have to be peaceful, you
Yeah.
have to be calm,
Yeah.
you have to have this feeling of Isha Vasyam Sarvam Idam within yourself.
Yeah.
That entire universe is enveloped by divinity. Whatever I see around myself has godliness within it, and that God is everywhere,
Yeah.
within knowledge, within education, within everything that I'm going to receive. So this is the feel of this campus. When you enter this campus, this is a feel that you enter with. That you cannot hate anything, you cannot be preoccupied with anything. You have to be very, very receptive. You have to receive all knowledge from all corners. And that is why the campus has been designed in a way that it's all converging to one end goal. It's all converging to one ultimate objective. And the ultimate objective is to gain knowledge, to become wiser.
So it in itself is a ode to knowledge and the old Indian knowledge system as well.
Yeah.
That I just don't pray to God, I just don't pray to objects, but I also pray to the land,
Yeah.
the universe, the
Yeah.
society, the ecosystem that I am in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel myself into it, and I feel that it is in me.
Yeah.
And that way I'm able to learn that knowledge and make that impact that I want to make
Yeah.
for it.
So if you see godliness within everyone, and if
Yeah.
you see everyone within God,
Yeah.
then God itself is not invisible to you.
Yeah.
That's the basic tenet of the Indic philosophy. And that
Most
tenet, if
beautiful thoughts.
understood,
Yeah.
will make sure that you carry forward on the path of Jnana Yoga. And these Indic philosophies, these Indic values are also something that we carry very closely, very deep in our hearts. And that's, I think, one of the reasons perhaps that we have this A+ grade with us now.
Yeah. And the reason it's called a Gyan Vihar.
Yeah.
A palace of wisdom.
Yes.
And the A+ degree. So it's the impact of the faculties, the students, the researchers, everyone who's come together, that shows in these two letters of what this place is.
I
Right?
believe all the stakeholders, of course, the teachers, the researchers, the students, but also the parents,
Yeah.
also members of the civic society who
Yeah.
made sure that this campus became a reality. People who've been friends of this university, people who are from our non-academic staff, from our non-teaching staff, from our support staff. All of these stakeholders have come together, and due to their excellence, due to their perseverance, this grade is now real. This university got established in the year 2008
28.
via the Suresh Gyan Vihar University Act 2008, which was passed in the Vidhan Sabha. In the year 2017, in its first NAC assessment cycle, it became Rajasthan's first private university with A grade.
Yeah.
And in the very second cycle in 2024, it received the A+ grade. One of the fastest growing universities in the state of Rajasthan, in the country
Or
itself.
even in the country itself.
In the 16 years that this university has been in existence, today, of course, it has the highest NAC score in the city of Jaipur, a 3.32 on a scale of 4. It has one of the highest number of citations amongst Indian universities, which are only 15, 16-year-old. One of the highest number of journals, publications in Q1 and Q2 journals. One of the highest number of patents and copyrights. All of this, I believe, is a result of the hard work that all the stakeholders have put in. And none of it is for just material returns alone. I think all of this has been possible because it comes from a very pure place. It comes from a very pious and noble objective. And the pious and noble objective is to make sure that while you grow yourself, while you achieve things in your career, you're also adding to the communal knowledge pool.
So it sometimes we like, because we take it for granted, we take these things for granted, we don't see the impact of the place that we are in, right? And so to me, like sometimes I'm amazed that I enter Gyan Vihar, and you have to realize that an educational institution is itself a mark on how the society is.
Yeah.
And the institutions like, Stanford has made a whole Silicon Valley around it.
Yeah.
The place that runs the whole world.
Yeah.
And educational institutions at any place are sort of the main starting points, the source of knowledge, activity, and energy in itself of that area around it.
Yeah.
And to me, what the story of Gyan Vihar always says is that for a very long time, Gyan Vihar was the only NAC A graded institution, and then became the first to go for such a high score in NAC A plus, being NIRF ranked only one in the city and the state for private institutions. It is amazing, and it is something that we ignore, but something that we should know, that the place that we are is so special. That the impact that it is making, and the impact that we can make with the help of it as students, as teachers. Because this is the place where all the energy of how we are growing Rajasthan in the future, how we are growing India in the future comes from. We can make that impact from within the institution itself. And this is the right place to do that, because it's a quality trademark. It itself shows that we are the leading university campus or education institution that's showing that, hey, come here. We believe in quality. And if you believe in quality, we can work together to create that quality institution for you.
Yeah, for a large part of the last century, Gyan Vihar, in fact, has been the driving factor behind change.
Exactly.
And a lot of things have changed in the city and in the state of Rajasthan because of Gyan Vihar. Perhaps the first private institute in the state of Rajasthan to actively research climate change. To actively research the change in water levels. To actively research the change in, the bioorganisms. To actively research the fact that non-renewable energy also needs a push. So a lot of these changes have been brought upon by Gyan Vihar, by its own scientists.
Exactly.
Our NIRF ranking, of course, now being ranked amongst the top 150 universities of India, is no small feat. And to achieve this within 16, 17 years of its existence is something that I believe makes each and every stakeholder of the university proud. And it's a very accurate observation that one such university is able to bring in change in a lot of sectors and a lot of spheres around it. Whether it be the social sphere, or it be the innovative sphere, it be the economic sphere, it be the cultural sphere, any such institution makes sure that it creates some kind of change in all of these spheres around, and changes actually how anyone who enters this university leads their life and the lives of all those that he or she can impact in turn.
Exactly.
So this, in fact, is a way of us trying to change the lives of all of those who come into contact with this university.
Yeah, it's the philosophy inside that the people have to have. It's that story, like what differentiates between, a growing country, a growing ecosystem from something that's stale. Is that belief that we can make that impact. And that comes from this university. I always see it. The focus on research that you would have, the focus on, in some ways, even discipline and diligence of work that the faculty show, and of course then that transfers to the students itself. And I guess that brings us to a very right place where I have always seen this philosophical impact in all the stakeholders of this university, that there has to be a sort of belief in our land, and belief in discipline and rules, and outcomes of that into how we can all come together into making our society and ecosystem into something that we want.
And more than that, what being a citizen really is. Being a citizen of this great nation doesn't just mean being a citizen of a land which is a revered land, or a land which has certain symbols and certain iconography,
not just that,
which is reverential, but being a citizen of a land which values the equality, the fraternity, the inclusivity, the universalization of all possible services. Being the citizen of a land which teaches you how to actually be a good Samaritan. So this is what the constitution point of India and the constitution point of this university reflects. those constitutional values which are not just enshrined in letter, but they are enshrined in all of our hearts. And they are enshrined in our hearts because our founding fathers thought that these values, while will possibly make us good citizens and carriers of the Indic values that we have just spoken of, because most of these values which are thought of to be Western values are in fact values which have been deep rooted in this land for centuries and years before. So I think that's something that is sentimental. It's also something that's aspirational and ambitious, because when a student enters from this gateway and he looks at the constitution point, he or she knows what he or she is working towards.
Yeah.
The kind of country that we want this beautiful nation to become. The kind of citizens we want all of our citizenry to be ambitious about. So this is something that I believe is beautiful, is sentimental at the same time, and it also creates an aspiration in our hearts and minds.
So as you enter the gateway of opportunity, you are reminded of first your duties towards the country, your duty towards your land, and how you can imbibe all and everything around in your ecosystem within you, to take that into the opportunity and the person that you want to become in the future.
Yep. Crossing the stepwell that we have spoken about, another beautiful representation of the Rajasthani culture, where when water was scarce, we thought of ingenious means where water could be collected, where subsoil water could be recharged. So it is one of the examples of Rajasthan's unique architecture and Rajasthan's unique approach in conserving and preserving water. A stepwell, which of course is also called a bawdi. So this beautiful structure that you see in front of you is modeled after the Sabrat Yantra of the Jantar Mantar. Again, something that connects this campus to the beautiful city of Jaipur, and to the philosopher king that Savai Jai Singh was. Philosopher king because he was someone who wasn't just concerned about rule and about governance, but also someone who was concerned about knowledge and how to disseminate it. He was someone with an ever curious mind, someone who wanted to answer all the primordial questions that humanity has always had. So Samrat Yantra was one such beautiful equipment, which is there in Jantar Mantars across the country. There are 4, and it's basically a sun
the Jaipur
clock,
one being the biggest.
Yeah, the Jaipur one being the biggest. So this is in fact a combination of both a sundial and a water channel also. So this acts as one of the units of our water recharge system, but also as a sundial which accurately still tells time. To our right, we have Varamihir Bhavan, named after one of the brightest mathematicians and astronomers of ancient India. To our left, we have the Panini Bhavan, named after the great Sanskrit grammatician Panini, who laid out the laws of how classical Sanskrit is to be used in his Ashtadhyayi. So both Panini, Varamihir, then we have Brahmagupt Bhavan to our left. All of these are people who reflect this never dying quest for knowledge that has existed in this land for the last 5,000-6,000 years. This ignition that we have always had, this spark that we have always had, this is not something which is new to us. This is something that we lost over the best part of the last millennium. But this is our effort in trying to rediscover all of those burning questions, all of those never-ending quests. So yeah, so
the architecture of Gyan Vihar, its names, its monuments, are itself the ode to the land itself it stands on, and also the history that it comes from. Right? That it's an institution that didn't just start in 2008, but actually started from a very old institution that started in 1930s.
Yeah, in 1938. So what had its inception in 1938 is now a NAC A+ university, which is NIRF ranked, which has all of these laurels, but started as an effort, as an attempt to make sure that the Indian languages were promoted, because literacy was a basic challenge back then.
Knowledge starts from learning the language.
So to make sure that you first have the means and the modes to understand things, language is very important. So what started as an effort in instructing students in various languages, has now in fact grown into this beautiful institution, beautiful conglomeration of various streams, disciplines, branches, specializations. But yes, all of these buildings, this entire architecture is a testament to the glories of the past, the foundations on which this great civilization, this great nation, and this great institution stands, but are also Baironmukhi. These are also outward looking. So we are not just people who want to live in the past, because if we live in the past, we are going to burden by it, and if we are burdened by it, we are going to become fossils.
Yes.
But we are people who envision ourselves like kalpavriksha, like trees, beings which are grounded, which have roots inside, but they have also branches and leaves outside. So while you can take nutrition from your glorious past, you also have branches and leaves above the ground where new ideas can be received from everywhere around the world. So that's how the campus and the university has also been designed physically, and in also the way that it functions, where everything that's sort of enshrined in our past, everything that's beautiful in our past, we carry it in our hearts, in letter and in spirit, but also things that we can learn from all corners of the world, remotest corners of the world, we are receptive to those things as well. To our right, we have our cricket ground, one of the largest academic cricket grounds I have seen. Universities seldom can say that they can boast of such beautiful sports facilities. It has a 60-meter boundary on all sides of the pitch. There are 3 strips in the center, and there are state level, district level, in fact even national level matches which have been held in this beautiful cricket stadium.
Even the Rajasthan cricket board sometimes.
Yes, so we've had district level and state level competitions here. We've also had the state Ranji team trials here. So all of these trials, practice matches, district level competitions, they've all taken place here.
So first, valuing your heritage, taking pride in it, but also then going towards having the inquisitivity of outwardness and finding solutions and answers also, right? But then as you come here, you see that life is not just about sitting in a classroom, but it's centered around this cricket stadium or this stadium of sports in itself, where then it shows that you work in these buildings, but look outwards towards how you make your life balanced, how you make your life fun, and become a human that has broader perspectives. So that shows into the architecture itself. And
I think it's very important that institutions, people, ideologies, they grow organically. And I call this a very organic growth. A growth which is quite aligned to very humanistic and human values. Where you are not being trained on a factory line to become a robot, but you're being built, you're being nurtured, you're being nourished in an environment where you get the best of both worlds. You are taught in excellent classrooms and labs by excellent teachers, but you're also encouraged to look out and see that there are green pastures waiting for you, greener pastures yet, places which can address all of your senses, places which can make you into beautiful human beings which have a well-rounded personality. And that's how universities should be. Universities are not just places where you can go and read a book, but they are places where your entire personality grows.
It's not a coaching institution.
I call them personality workshops.
Exactly.
They are basically making you a well-rounded human being. If this education is not there, there is very little difference between an animal, a robot, and a human. So if no education is there, you are no more than an animal. If only classes and labs are there, then you are no better than a robot. But if all of this combines together, then I believe that you become a human which is alive, which has dreams, which has aspirations, and which also has the skills and talents which are needed to fulfill these aspirations and dreams.
So from what you just said near the cricket ground, something that really hit me is something that I've been thinking about all this time, and everyone asks me these days as we are creating this foundation for Esther, that what differentiates between a human and a robot and the impact itself. So a robot would be able to do your coding, a robot would be able to do all those things that we thought something is not possible to be done by a machine. But now, since all of that has been replaced, what does an engineer actually do? And some coaching institution, some kind of a training center that makes you a front-end engineer, a back-end engineer, cannot really imbibe that kind of a perspective in you that a university like Gyan Vihar does. And in itself, the philosophy of how it's designed and how it thinks of these things, you can see that a student joining SGVU today, Esther today, they'll open up to this kind of an exposure where you're exposed to learning knowledge from the outside, but also looking inside, also building yourself into this person that is a solution founder. That is a person who thinks outside of the box. And you only do that when you have that ecosystem around you. You're able to participate in activities, you're able to participate across the university in this ecosystem and build yourself and the ecosystem with you.
I believe the objective of Esther should be to make sure that this part of humans where our dreams, our aspirations regarding self, regarding society, regarding nation as a whole, regarding humanity, if we are able to combine all of these things to create the engineer of tomorrow, which is able to find problems to the things that resonate with him and her, and is also able to extend those solutions to people around, to the society around, then I believe we have built an engineer which is not going to become redundant. So this is something that we have spoken before also in interpersonal deliberations, where we have tried to find a suitable balance between technical skills, between having a brain which is driven by the motive of creating some kind of positive social change, behind understanding what your responsibility as an enlightened citizen are, and also being very aspirational and ambitious in nature, where you're not limiting yourself to one problem statement alone, but where you're trying to find solutions to each and everything that you see around yourself. And that's why it's very important to observe and to absorb. And very rightly said, an engineer who's not a dreamer, who cannot observe, who cannot absorb, is of course going to be replaced, because that's something that machines are also doing. But someone who's observing, absorbing, and then dreaming about those things, I think that's essentially a human thing to do. Maybe these are also functions that a robot might be able to do in 5 or 10 years, but till now it's a very human thing to do.
No, it's just when people think of what's the job of the future, what will be the jobs of the next 5 years. So everyone's asking these days, what's the future job of tomorrow, the job of 2030. And from what you just said, I think we don't know what AI will replace, but there's one thing that the humans would still be doing, and that's finding the answers. And so this job I call the CSE job of 2030, which is the solution architect or the software architect, but actually a solution architect. So this person, if I am a startup founder in 2030, or a company founder in 2030, or even larger companies, I don't need 100 people anymore. I don't need 500 engineers who just copy paste that code, because AI can do that now. I need 10 very good people who can look at the problem, give me how the solution can be founded, and then use AI best to find that solution. But that person can only be trained at a place that is not a coaching center. That is not, you learn this, cram this, and you push this out as code on paper, but a person who can think like a founder itself.
How I view this problem is that we are on a quest to find original thinkers. People who can think for themselves. People who can look at a problem, dissect it, ideate about it, and then find solutions. So that's a very entrepreneurial and a very founder-oriented approach at looking at things. Everything. So this is the person, these are the kind of engineers that you want to train. You want them to have an entrepreneurial, answer-seeking, problem-solving approach, where a problem is not just seen as a problem, but you're able to see each and every bit around that problem. You're able to dissect it, you're able to understand how it's affecting people, and then you're able to ideate on a solution. And once you're able to do that, you should have the basic minimum prerequisite skills which you need as an engineer to make sure that you're able to solve that problem. But to see that problem in this immersive manner is something that cannot be done at a coaching institute, or let's say at a factory line which is just producing engineers. It can only be done at an institute like Esther, where you will have founders come in, where you will have people from industry come in and teach students with real problems, making sure that they are able to immerse themselves in an ecosystem, in an atmosphere where they are able to look at problems, able to solve them, able to apply their own spin on it, and then make sure that all of this comes to something that's fruitful, that's something that can be assessed, something that can be replicated, something that can be developed into a training model. So I believe a training model of this sort is something that's the need of the hour. And if Esther is going to do it, as I believe that we are going to do it, then I think we'll be one of the first few ones to be attempting to do it.
So keeping that same philosophy in mind, a small segue to how the classrooms of Esters are built.
Yeah.
You can see it says that it's not a place that's, 1:20 place, but this is a place where if I'm sitting there, I see a fellow student and colleague right in front of me.
Yeah.
So it's a discussion place rather than just a one-directional learning place.
So we call it a senatorial orientation.
Exactly.
So this is built like a senate is usually built.
Yeah.
And this is built in a way, so because we want to ensure that interaction between peers also takes place. So this is not your conventional teaching, which is very transactional in nature, where a one-way transaction takes place from the facilitator, where he or she is just transmitting knowledge and the person sitting in front is receiving it. But the LT also is designed in a way where interaction can take place between the student and the teacher, between students themselves, between group of students. So you can have two sides of the houses as well. One side of the house, the other side of the house. A problem is presented, and one side can present one solution to the problem and the other one can present the other solution to the problem. So you can have multiple different interactions within the same space. Of course, you also have all the modern tech which is needed. You've got your interactive panels, you've got your podiums, you've got your projectors, you've got your air-conditioned lecture theatres, you've got your carpeting. So all of that to make sure that they are in a space where the space itself is also aspirational.
Yeah.
So
a safe, calm, but aspirational place where the argumentative knowledge happens. The argument where you just don't take knowledge but create it while in discussions with your peers and your teacher. And that's the future engineer, the person who creates the solutions, who talks it out. You, as you said, you have these systems where you take sides, you argue about that knowledge, that fact, and you go out and seek what you've learned and discuss with everyone, discuss with your peers. And this classroom to me is something that giving me that energy where I myself feel that I want to study here. I seldom see that a classroom would have a TV where the screen is used by that teacher to teach that knowledge, and then not everything is that one directional, but I'm sitting here and discussing with other students, and that's just amazing.
So let me try and find out what a typical student who's studying in Esther will actually be taught.
So I would say the core foundation of how we've created this curriculum at Esther is something that's very different from everywhere else, because I truly believe that engineering is a practical field. It's like becoming a doctor, where doctors come and treat you. It's like becoming a CA, where another CA would be teaching you. This is like an apprenticeship, a 4 years where you should actually be learning the real skill that you need in the industry, while also learning the theoretical knowledge that you need to create those solutions. So it's a combination of the two things.
Right.
So 50% of your teachers are engineers, people who are working here for 12 months building softwares in itself, building and doing research on agents and AI systems, multi-agentic systems. So they're researching with AI right now. They're building it right now. So these are engineers who are actual AI engineers and working here in our campus, in our research labs. And on the other side, you have your theoretical teachers, your teachers who teach you discrete mathematics, the computational physics, all the kind of subjects that you do need where you would be creating that knowledge. So it's a combination of the two. So that's what the foundation of Esther is. And we look at Esther as a place where you come in and this is a 4-year long internship.
Right.
So you are here and you are learning with those people who are learning themselves, who are people who are maybe 5 or 6 years your senior, who just graduated, joined an industry, and then came to us, and they're now here creating those solutions. They're learning and they're teaching you what they just learned.
So let me break it down into simpler terms.
Yeah.
Basically, we are working on two different things.
Yeah.
Where we are also trying to build a foundation, which is a very conventional foundation that each and every engineering student in the world perhaps has. But that foundation is not left alone. And we are also building a beautiful edifice on that foundation. We are making sure that once someone's concepts are clear, we can have people who are real change makers, real problem solvers, real solution seekers from the industry come into the classroom and make sure that the foundation that has already been built is now tinkered upon, is now played with. And we are now able to create a beautiful building on that foundation itself. And while all of that is happening, these people who have come in to teach are also creating their own projects. So while they're teaching in the classrooms, they're also going back to labs, and they've not left industry altogether, but they've created now a space where real-time academia industry interface is taking place live.
Right there within the campus itself. So it's not, a lot of engineering institutions in this country now have this system where they'd outsource that knowledge to some company. That company will come in and say that, I'm running this course for you, and then they're bringing in some teachers and they're teaching you. But that concept in itself, to me, is hypocritical, that you are supposed to be the knowledge maker. So why you'd see American institutions and sometimes UK institutions excelling at how they're, giving knowledge or to the disseminating knowledge to their students, is that they're creating knowledge right there.
Yeah.
And once those people create knowledge, they'd have the most updated knowledge that an engineer would need. It's the most updating and the most fast fields that there exist.
And that should be the case. Universities should be leading that curve. Industry should not have the lead over a university, but in fact, university should be creating ideas that industries can take cues from. So if this is done, if this is the way that students are taught, and if this is the way that resource people from the industry are brought back into the academic fold, then once again, at least with Gyan Vihar, with Esther, we'll have an ecosystem which is creating new knowledge for the industry to take cues from. So I believe this is a very new and a very novel way of teaching,
of a university in itself,
where students are being taught, solutions are being created, new research is being done, and at the same time, all of this is being done in such an entrepreneurial way that you're also creating ideas which can shape the industry itself.
Yeah.
So if this is the journey that a student embarks upon, I believe that he or she, in whichever corner of the world he or she finds himself or herself at, they're always going to be in demand. They're always going to be people who will be on the top of this food chain. If we think of it like a food chain, then these will be your apex predators. So I think
once you are a solution creator,
yeah,
you are the one who's hiring everyone.
Yeah,
so it's you become the top 1% of the engineer of the world.
Yeah. This beautiful cricket ground that we are revisiting now, there you see Sadawarth. It's called the Sadawarth Bhavan because it is the building which is for all, which is for everyone. And that's the essence of Sadawarth. It's trying to universalize higher education. Education for all. Next to the Sadawarth building, you have the Maitreyi Bhavan, the great female Vedic seer who left her imprint on all the Vedic literature we have and proved that females are the intellectual counterparts of males. Before that, there were not a lot of female Vedic seers or sages who were able to actively contribute to the Vedic knowledge pool, but Maitreyi did so. Then you have the Mukund Vrindavan temple, which is
a temple itself in a university.
A temple in a university based on the Nagar temple style.
Yeah.
जिसे हम हिंदी में we call it the Nagar Mandir Shaili. It has your Shikhar, it has your Garbhagriha, it has your Mandap, and it has your Ardha Mandap. And it has Radha Krishna residing in this beautiful temple. Here you have your hostel block, which is also named after various freedom fighters and unsung heroes which have defined our lives over the last 500, 600 years, but whose names we do not always remember. So you have Surya Sen, you have Bismil, you have Birsa Munda, you have Pannadhai, you have Manikarnika, and you have Ashfaqullah. All unsung heroes of this great flame of independence, which was lit, as the name Pannadhai reflects, back in the 15th and 16th century.
Yeah.
Not as recent
Heroes
as
of the
18th or
land.
19th century. But Pannadhai, who was from Mewar, who was fighting for the independence of Mewar, and made the supreme sacrifice of her own child to make sure that there was some resistance left in Chittor to protect it from the invading forces. So Pannadhai, Ashfaqullah, Surasen, Bismil, Birsa Munda, Manikarnika, all of them are not just reflective of this resilient nature of people, but are also reflective of the fact that somewhere there will always be people who will remember you for the great things that you have done. So even if the crowds do not remember you, people who are in Gyan Vihar, people who are involved in the sadhana of Gyan, they're always going to remember you. So it also creates an aspiration and ambition among students that no matter what the masses think of them, there'll always be an enlightened few who will remember them if they make any kind of change to the society.
Yeah, that in the large story of the universe, or the large story of everyone, even a big impact can be made by small people, people who can make a little change, eventually causing a much larger change.
Yes. Which brings us to the House of Wisdom, basically named House of Wisdom after Baitul Hikmah. And Baitul Hikmah in Arabic stands for the House of Wisdom and was the ancient library of the great Caliph Harun Rashid of the Rashid Caliphate. And this beautiful building houses the great library of Suresh Gyan Vihar University. It is the largest academic library in the whole of North India. It has, as of now, more than 1 lakh physical books. It has more than 10 lakh digital resources, and it is built over a complete built-up area of 1.5 lakh square feet. That's a building which is enough to house one engineering college in itself. But imagine this building only has the library, the convention center, the auditoriums, and a few research labs of this university. So this is the way this university is prioritizing education, putting this much of physical infra,
physical resources and infra,
to the end,
the focus of
that students get to stay in the library for long hours, to the end that they get to research in these well-built labs, to the end that the most high-tech labs that we have built for Esther are also in this building. And now we can, I think without further ado, we can proceed towards the labs that we've built for Esther.
You said, what does a day of an Esther student looks like? So I would imagine it as it starts at 9 o'clock. The Esther student has already studied the topic that the teacher had told them a day before, and the lecture in itself becomes a discussion. Once that happens, the student comes to one of our innovation labs. So every Esther student has to go through 4 or 5 innovation labs while they are here. The innovation labs are not just a physical space. These are labs designed on how the world is changing, how the world of AI and computer science is changing. And we think that these labs, if you go through them, as in if you are able to build in those labs, the projects that we have designated in those labs, within 4 or 5 years, as you've gone through that, you would be one of the top 1% of the world of engineers. So these are the spaces where the Esther student would be spending their time in.
So a little bit about this one. The Apple Authorized Training Center for Education, established in association with Apple to make sure that the students who are studying here not just get a look and feel of computer science engineering, but are also able to understand the workings behind one of the most valued companies of the world, which is Apple. So students here will not just be trained on innovation, but will also be trained on how to build apps in an Apple ecosystem on the Swift platform. All the systems here are your Apple Macs. And this entire lab has been designed in a way where they can work on these systems, but can also co-create. So there are discussion hubs and discussion pods as well, where small teams can speak to each other and ideate on various ideas that they are forming. So if you present them with problems, you're also giving them spaces for discussion where they can divide each other into groups and discuss among themselves to really seek a proper solution to those problems.
Yeah. The life of an Esther student is not just in a classroom,
Yeah.
but it's something what I would do, when I'm working for a larger company.
Yeah.
I would want to get that knowledge from somewhere. I would first start from talking to my teacher. The faculty has told me about some problem that they're trying to solve, and I've learned that. But now I come to a lab, and that lab is the place where engineering happens.
Yeah.
I come here, I'm sitting here 9 to 9, trying to solve that solution, trying to find a problem with the group of people that I'm working with, my colleagues, my seniors, and my faculties who are actually engineers.
Yeah.
So at Esther, these students are spending time with the most advanced of technologies, with most advanced of these facilities, while also looking very minutely in a very detailed manner in how engineering has to be done. So if you're building an application, it's not just about learning theory of how that application is built. Until you actually spend 100, 200 hours on building it, you would not actually know how to build it.
Yeah.
So this is where that happens.
Yeah. And in a place like this, which looks as state of the art that this place looks like, you're not just learning, but you're also becoming a dreamer. You're also becoming aspirational. And look at this lab. This reflects the kind of infra that any Fortune 500 or let's say Forbes company or listed
like
companies, the kind of offices or workspaces that listed companies have. This is the kind of lab that we have tried to create, where the kind of experience a student is going to have outside in the marketplace, in the workplace, that experience can also be kind of simulated in the institution itself. You look at the systems, you look at the furniture, you look at the surroundings, look at the entire ambience.
State of the art.
Everything has been designed in a way that it speaks and shouts of engineering.
A personal space, but also discussion spaces.
Yeah.
Where you sit and find solutions and then implement it here.
And I believe that's the beauty of the kind of education we are trying to push forward, where students are also encouraged to form groups within themselves, to work on side projects, to work on side quests. So you have been given assignments, but you can look for like-minded people, you can look for people who think like you, who align with you, and then you can sit and discuss your ideas and projects with them in a space which allows you to do both things. You've learned from the teacher, and now you've been given a space where you can discuss and come up with a collective solution.
Exactly. And this is really where the tinkering happens, the building of the real application. And see, I'm imagining that at this place, so we at Esther, as I was talking about, there's 5 innovation labs. So starting from your foundation lab, where students are working on building large language models, they're building machine learning models. So this is what happens right here. This is the place. And our seniors, our engineers who are your faculties are working on those projects, and you sit with them, you see in real cognitive learning, you first see how they're doing it, then you implement that and they see how, if they can improve in any way what you are doing. And then eventually you are able to get the thinking model that teacher has, that experience gives you into right when you're here for 4 years degree of your time. So starting from your foundation model lab to going towards your soft brain lab, what we call it, which is where you build the future of softwares. The future of softwares we think is a combination of how AI will be running the software itself end to end. Then you have your robotics lab, which is what we call your brain lab, and where you are building your exoskeletons, your robots, your humanoids. From 3D printed humanoids, the students are self-building these robot dogs and quadrupods and human shaped robots and putting their brain in them. Then we have a RISC-V lab, which is taking in account that India's growing semiconductor industry. You have to create a parallel industry of people who will be designing the semiconductors, designing the chips. So RISC-V is an open source software where the chips are built, and in our RISC-V labs, we are creating the next human resource that we're building that industry. And then we have our augmented human robot lab. So that means that the experience of holographic technologies, laser technologies, how the human and AI and human and robot machine interaction would be there in the future. Your UX experience, UI experience, all of that is built here. So these 5 labs, students spend their whole time in those labs. And that's where a real engineer is built.
So I believe this is an end-to-end solution to all the modern engineering needs. Not only are we building a substrata of standardized, universal, high-quality computer science engineering, but we are also trying to offer specialization in terms of minors. So have your majors and minors. Because as we've spoken earlier, an engineer who does not have multiple skill sets, an engineer who's not a jack of all trades, an engineer who's not able to couple his basic engineering skills with some or the other sort of minor, a niche space where he or she can find a talent of his or own, a niche calling that an engineering student is able to find. So to explore those niche callings that people have within themselves, I believe we have this very robust system of offering them both majors and minors, so that by the time you get out of this institute, you don't only have a computer science degree, but you also have very specific skill sets which will make you in more demand when you go out and appear for jobs, or even when you want to become an entrepreneur and you want to build a company of yourself or want to ideate, because then you will have everything extra that's needed. So I believe multiple labs, multiple majors, multiple minors, all of this makes sure that Esther becomes a one-stop solution to the modern engineering needs.
Something I would like to add is like how we're looking at the in-demand careers of 2030. So as you rightly said, the majors and minors, how we've combined it, right? So if you look at that job in 2030, you're not looking at a specialized computer science job. You're not looking that IBM or Microsoft is going to hire you just for do back-end engineering for me. You're looking for someone where you'll probably be hired by a company which is maybe working on, fintech AI, or a bioengineering company, or a material science company. And they don't want someone who's just a computer scientist. Or they can't do much with a person who just knows finance. They want someone who does both, who also knows robotics and also knows computer science, also knows bioengineering, also knows computer science. If I can get that while I'm at Esther as a student, I think that would be amazing. Like if I can do a major in software engineering, AI, ML, and then a minor in fintech, a minor in material science, a minor in smart buildings, smart city, I become this niche, an expert engineer who's seen the perspective of how other fields work. And then I am not looking for a job, but then companies are looking to find me, that I want someone who's that broad and that has such a broad perspective, who's gone through that process of doing these projects, of multi-pronged projects, of also doing AI, CS, and then also doing these other things. So this person has to be smarter than the other pool of people who've only done one thing in their time as a CS student.
So the good thing is that the way the world is shaping up, AI or machine learning as a layer seems to have an application for everything, for each and everything.
It will have.
For whatever jobs you can envision, whatever jobs you can see on the horizon, you'll always have a layer of AI ML applied to it.
Definitely.
So if you are someone who has that basic knowledge of artificial intelligence and machine learning, and also have the niche knowledge of a subject specific domain, then you have both the best of both worlds. Then you're a combination of both of these things. And I believe that at labs like this, at institutes like this, these are the very students that we are trying to nurture. So if everything goes well, if everything goes as planned, then I believe that in your hands, you will have a team which I believe is going to change the future of this country.
Definitely does. And Gyan Vihar is the right place to start this such an ambition of engineering. And I think that SGVU is the place that this had to happen, where we are reaching towards the next stage of how engineering education should be done and has to be done. And SGVU is that ecosystem of heritage, history, and the inquisitiveness of the future. That combination makes it that proud place that would help those students becoming the future top 1% of engineers of the world.
So if you're someone who's looking to explore yourself in this growing field of computer science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, if you're someone who feels that he or she can be the jack of all trades, if you're someone who's looking to take the challenges of the modern world head on, And if you're someone who's looking to explore yourself in a place where you have access to all the best of human resource, all the best of technological resource, and all the best of material resource, then of course, Aster and Gyan Vihar is the place to be.